Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome back to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M., and returning to the studio after fighting off an illness, the statistician to the stars, the co-host, you know him as Padawan J.
As the song says, I was down with the sickness because good goddamn. Glad to be back. Glad to be feeling better. Still a little hoarse of a voice going on right now, so I apologize for that, but I'm on the mend.
And we are very appreciative that you're coming through and fighting off whatever you're going through to join us to talk about sports, because we have been long overdue to have a sports edition of the ODPH podcast, and we definitely got to keep those conversations rolling. So, Pad, where's everybody going after the show?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. Blog section, social media links, TeePublic Store link, friends of the show, such as 3FM Podcast, Dragon Master Games, Nerd Initiative, the directory. How many providers are we on?
39,079.
Statisticians to stars for a reason, folks. The music section, anything and everything that is the ODPH. You can find it at odphpodcast.com. And we have a lot to discuss in the land of sports, so that's why we're going to kick things off recapping a very interesting final week of the NFL season.
Very bizarre.
Yeah, so let's get into it, talk some locks and leaps, and go from there.
Yeah, so we're going to start with my lock. I chose the Baltimore Ravens to beat the Cleveland Browns because, well, sorry, Cleveland fans, your team's a steaming hot pile of shit. And Baltimore did win by the final score of 35-10. Lamar Jackson, 16 of 32, 217 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Bailey Zapp led the way for Cleveland in passing with 16 for 31, 170 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Dante Foreman, didn't know he was still in the league, led the way for Cleveland in rushing with 10 carries, 27 yards, no touchdowns. Derrick Henry led the way for Baltimore because with 20 carries, 138 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Leading the way for Baltimore in receiving was Rashad Bateman with 5 catches, 76 yards, 1 touchdown. And for Cleveland, it was Jerry Jeudy with 6 catches, 63 yards, and no touchdowns.
Well, nothing really too much to write home about this one.
Nice tune-up game for Baltimore.
Baltimore locked up the AFC North with this, which we were expecting. Lamar Jackson is making a very strong case for the MVP race.
In the conversation.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And you know what? If he wins it or he ties with Josh Allen, I don't struggle with that at all. I think that Jackson has been putting up consistent numbers in Baltimore this year, even setting some records. But I think it gets overlooked a lot because he has a better offensive set than Buffalo.
Yeah.
And if the situation was reversed, I think if Jackson was in Buffalo, he'd be having a lot more press on him.
Oh, absolutely.
Just because when you have Derrick Henry in your backfield, that makes up for a lot. And this team has always been very consistent, and especially in a very tough division, which even with Cleveland's record, it doesn't really reflect a lot of their play because they've had a lot of injuries this season. Baltimore is making a really strong run for being a legit contender for the Super Bowl, and I think they have to be in that conversation, and Lamar for that MVP, as we alluded to.
Absolutely. I mean, the other thing, too, Lamar's got a very good receiver core. Now, I wouldn't say one of the best, but it's very good. I think if you ask most fans.
It's better than most.
Yeah, I think if you ask most fans who the number one receiver on Baltimore is, I think most people are going to say Mark Andrews. But you look at the rest of that thing, you got Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman. Like, that's a very good receiving core.
And I'm not sure about Flowers' injury status. I think that he was hit with something in this game, too, because I know some Baltimore fans were very concerned going into this week's of playoffs.
Didn't do much. He had 2 targets, 1 catch, 12 yards. I will look and see if there's anything on the injury report.
All right, thank you. And on the flip side, Cleveland, well, they just had to get to the end of the season. They are going to be doing some retooling. They have locked in the second pick overall in the upcoming draft.
As of 3 hours ago for Zay Flowers, he was not seen taking practice on Tuesday, according to Jeff Zrebiec of The Athletic.
That's what I thought. He
is listed as questionable.
Which I think if he can physically go, he will go this weekend.
Absolutely.
I think anybody is going to be All hands on deck.
Cortisone shot and give me some ibuprofen.
Yeah, if they can play, they can play.
Yep.
So I think for Baltimore, it's a good win to lock up the AFC North because with that division, there was some uncertainty going on. And with who they are going to be facing this weekend, that's going to be another challenge as well. For Cleveland, like we alluded to, it's the offseason. They have the second pick overall.
Yep.
I don't know if they're necessarily going to stay there.
Probably not.
I think they're going to deal. And I'm not sure because I don't know necessarily if they want to go for Cam Ward. I'm thinking he is locked and loaded for the New York Giants for some reason, and I don't know how it's going to happen, but I think the Giants wind up making the deal here.
I mean, listen, whoever ends up getting Cam Ward, good for you. I got a lot of questions about that kid. That's for another day.
No, that is for definitely another day.
Then we're going to go to my leap, which I figured, hey, you know what? Hot hand. They're looking good right now. Boy, was I wrong. I chose the Minnesota Vikings to beat the Detroit Lions, which they did not, losing by the final score of 31-9. Jared Goff, 27 of 33, 231 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Sam Darnold, 18 of 41, 166 yards passing, no touchdowns or interceptions. Cam Akers led the way for Minnesota in rushing with 6 carries, 65 yards, no touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs led the way for Detroit with 23 carries, 139 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. For Detroit, it was Amon-Ra St. Brown with 6 catches, 77 yards, no touchdowns. And for Minnesota, it was Justin Jefferson going 3 for 54 with no touchdowns.
Well, I think a lot of this has to fall on Minnesota's head coach, Kevin O'Connell. Because twice, early in the first half, if not the first quarter, if I'm not mistaken, they were in the red zone and went for it on 4th down twice and did not cash in.
Yes.
You can't, in a game like this, which literally decides the number 1 seed for the NFC, you have to go for points.
Yep.
And your team was not exactly lights out sharp.
And one of those occasions I do remember was, I think, right before halftime, where it was still within reach. I think if memory serves, Detroit only had like 10 points. And I'm like, it's still early. You still have the entire second half, which is a long time. Just take the points. Take the points, get on the board, move about your day, like whatever. But
that's what they needed to do. And they didn't. And when you give Detroit, who is definitely excited for this opportunity, they've never had a season like this before.
Nope.
To give Dan Campbell, who will roll the dice more than any coach in the football league anywhere.
Dude is a hot roller in Vegas.
You give him ammunition, he will take full advantage of it.
Yep.
Jahmyr Gibbs played amazing.
Oh, yeah.
The only downside to Detroit is I know a few of their players were injured in this game. Now, severities still to be determined because they have locked up the NFC number 1 seed. They're not playing this weekend. Correct. We'll see what happens when they come back. But that's going to be literally the only thing that holds this team back from really making a run.
Good Lord.
Which, let's talk about it.
So they've got Carlton Davis III, their cornerback, who's on injured reserve. He is not expected to return from IR during the playoffs, this according to the Detroit News. Derek Barnes, their linebacker, also on injured reserve. Dan Campbell said Tuesday he is not expected to return from IR during the playoffs, again, according to the Detroit News. David Montgomery is listed as questionable. Campbell expects to have Montgomery available for the Lions' first playoff game in the divisional round, according to DetroitFootball.net. Terrian Arnold, their cornerback, is considered day-to-day with a foot contusion, according to Ian Rappaport. Then you've got Kevin Zelter, their guard. He suffered a hamstring injury in the game on Sunday. He's listed as questionable. Pat O'Connor, their defensive end, has been ruled out for the rest of Sunday night's game against the Vikings. He's currently listed as questionable. Good Lord.
Yeah, they are really hurting right now.
Yeah.
So even though they did lock up the number 1 seed, they did what they had to.
Oh, yeah.
Came with a heavy cost.
Yeah.
Because now you have to hope everybody's 100% going into that first game, depending on who you're going to be facing.
Which is going to be either the Rams, Vikings, Commanders, or Packers.
Yeah. Which either way, I think if it's the Rams, I'll even make a bold prediction. I don't think they make it past that game.
It'd be close.
It's going to be a closer game than people realize. I think the Rams, kind of jumping ahead of myself a little bit, are arguably the biggest sleeper team in that NFC playoff
They're
picture.
scrappy. I'll give them that.
Yeah, in that picture, they are literally flying under the radar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if they get to that game against Detroit, I would not be shocked if they took advantage of it, because the one thing that people don't realize is the Rams are finally healthy.
Yeah.
For Detroit, it's the opposite way. Montgomery, if he's not 100%, him and Gibbs play off each other very well.
Oh, yeah.
The thing about Gibbs is he took advantage of Minnesota kind of having a mental breakdown, because when you don't put up points in the red zone like that, your defense has to go out there, try holding deep. And Detroit was throwing the ball downfield. They had qualms about moving that ball.
Uh-huh.
Your defense gassed out. That's why it got taken advantage of in the second round, because they were tired.
Yeah.
So the second half. So when that happens, it's like, yeah, Detroit is a smart enough team. They're going to take full advantage of what you're giving them. And if your defense is gassed, that's how it led to this.
Yep.
So that's why I say, if you put up some points, you bought some time, it would have been a different outcome. Maybe. But I think this night Detroit was just destined to get here. They've locked up the number 1 seed.
Yep.
For Minnesota, they're now in the 5th seed, and they have to face a very, very tough Rams team.
Yeah, they do.
Which I'm going to say, this one is going to be a lot closer than people think.
Oh, absolutely.
And we'll get into it next segment about the playoffs, but we'll have to really wait and see about this one.
Minnesota fans just better hope that Detroit didn't hit Sam Darnold so hard he got factory reset.
Yeah.
Because if he starts seeing ghosts again, oh boy.
Yeah.
Then we got your lock.
Well, you know what? I really hate saying this is a lock, because this one was probably the most controversial game of the weekend.
Probably.
Because Kansas City sat everybody.
Yep.
Being the number 1 seed in the AFC, I fully understand. I'm not questioning that. But you also have to really say, was this even a competitive game? Or the popular theory online, the allegedly the Chiefs did not want to face the Bengals in the playoffs any way, shape, or form, and sat more people than they should have.
Well, let's give Kansas City their due. Juju Smith-Schuster did see 2 targets, 1 catch. Noah Gray did see 1 target, 1 catch.
Mm-hmm.
They are, quote unquote starters, guys you see every day. But I mean, I'm looking at the rest of these dudes on offense, and yeah, they're not the starters.
No, they're definitely not. So this game really doesn't have a lot of recaps for it.
I mean, great game for Bo Nix.
But then again, who did he face?
Yeah.
Like, that's the argument, because to bury the lead a little bit, Denver won 38-0.
26 of 29, 321 yards for Bo Nix, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Set the rookie passing record for quarterback, which I didn't realize he was doing that.
No, definitely not. Denver has flown under the radar.
First time they're in the playoffs, and I believe it's 10 years.
Something like that,
maybe more.
But they took advantage of the opportunity that was given to them by Kansas City.
Yeah.
Kansas City, if they came out with their starters, would this have been a different outcome? It's debatable, because remember in the regular season when they faced each other, Denver was beating them.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that blocked field goal.
Yeah, where the one side of the line literally collapsed.
Yeah. It's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
So in this situation, you have to wonder, does Denver really have Kansas City's number? In this situation, no, because
they played the backups.
Yeah, you played the backups.
Right.
So there was really nothing to write home about with this, except you gave the Bills a very, I don't want to say a gift, but a team that I think helps them out more than anybody.
Could be.
I think if Cincinnati had gotten into the playoffs,
right,
they would have made a real run.
Oh, absolutely.
They were the hottest team going into.
You got the Triple Crown wide receiver.
Jamar
Chase.
Yeah,
Burrow was a hot hand.
I think
it would have given Fitz. That's for sure.
I'll be very honest about this, and I'm a Bills fan, as everybody knows if you're a longtime listener to the show. Cincinnati might have beat them.
I mean, hey, listen, Cincinnati, you can be angry all you want. Here's a piece of advice for you. Stop sucking week 1.
Well, the problem that game came back to haunt them and the Patriots a little bit too.
Yeah, 3 games, but yeah, that one is the one everyone's looking at.
But that is something that means every game matters. In that situation, Cincinnati has themselves to blame for a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm not excusing them, but to take a look at this game with Kansas City sitting everybody and literally gift wrapping this game to Denver.
Right.
This really decided the outcome of the playoffs, which Kansas City I don't think cares per se, but I think they're a lot happier they didn't have to face Cincinnati in any way, shape, or form, because if they got past the Bills, guess who they're facing? Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And we know that Burrow is very, very comfortable playing in Kansas City at any point.
This is true.
So for Denver, I mean, it's a great story for them. They have to go to Buffalo. I think, unfortunately for them, their fans were chanting, "We want Buffalo," right after that game.
Yeah.
Which, listen, Bills Mafia is one thing. Playoff Bills Mafia is a whole different ball game.
All I'm going to say is be prepared to cash that check.
Yeah, the Bills are favored by 9.5.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So we will leave it at that, and Kansas City will enjoy the week off to watch everybody. Denver, well, they have to bring their AAAAA plus game, and I don't know if it's going to be enough, to be honest with you, but we'll get into that in the next segment.
Mm-hmm.
Last but certainly not least was Cincinnati, which I had taken as a lock because the Pittsburgh Steelers have fallen.
Yeah, they have.
And fallen badly. And, Pat, while we're going through the stats, I also want to see how many games they've lost in a row.
Will do. So the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 19-17. Joe Burrow, 37-46. Good Lord. 277 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Russell Wilson, 17-31, 148 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Najee Harris led the way for Pittsburgh in rushing with 12 carries, 36 yards, just 1 touchdown. Khalil Herbert led the way for Cincinnati with 20 carries, 69 yards, and no touchdowns. Jamar Chase led the way for Cincinnati in receiving with 10 catches, 96 yards, 1 touchdown. Pat Freiermuth led the way for Pittsburgh in receiving with 8 catches, 85 yards, and 1 touchdown. And to answer your question about Pittsburgh, how many games have they lost in a row? They finished the season on a 4-game losing streak, losing in Week 15 to Philadelphia, losing in Week 16 to Baltimore, losing in Week 17 to Kansas City, and losing in Week 18 to Cincinnati. I want to point out, out of those 4 teams, 3 of them are in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, to think about it.
Yep.
This is a problem for Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh's a one and done. I'll say it right now.
Well, they're going to need to pull some lightning out of somewhere if they want to beat Baltimore. That's the only thing I'm going to say. The Russell Wilson experiment, I don't know if it's really still working.
It's currently in issue mode.
Well, that's the problem they have, which we knew going into the season. Between Justin Fields and him, what were they going to do? They pulled Justin Fields early. They let Russell Wilson run.
Right.
They got into that real contention space, locked up playoffs. But then this past week, they've had to face, or the past couple of weeks, they've had to face real playoff teams.
Uh-huh.
And I'll even say Cincinnati is a playoff team, even though they didn't make it.
Oh, sure. They're right on the bubble. If we're talking the college basketball tournament, they're the first 4 out.
Oh, yeah, completely. And they didn't show up for them.
Right.
Like, they had to win one of those games.
Right.
For me to say, like, they have a real chance to make a run.
Oh, sure.
I don't want to say they're going to get completely destroyed by Baltimore. But I think what Mike Tomlin and that coaching staff has to do, and if it was any other team, I'd say they're done. But Mike Tomlin, we have to give him his due.
Mm-hmm.
He knows Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
He's not afraid to go into their stadium. He's not afraid to take them on head first and see what they get.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have to really have a coaching display like we have not seen before if they're going to win.
This is true, but I'm also concerned because I'm looking at their entire schedule. And I'm not going to run through the entire thing, but I'm just looking at the losses. And the thing that sticks out to me is, okay, outside those 4 losses, their other 3 losses, Cleveland, who's got the number, what pick overall is it?
2.
3. Or 2, whatever it is. They're top 5. They've lost to Cleveland, and then they lost to Dallas in Indianapolis.
Okay, well, let's pause that for a second. Cleveland is division.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
To sweep a division opponent, it doesn't matter how bad your team is.
Sure.
Okay, Dallas, was that before Dak got hurt?
I can look.
Okay, so I will say that. I think that Dak was still playing at that point.
He was still playing.
Okay, so that's a difference right there. The Colts game is bad, but then again, they were almost in the playoffs too.
Yeah.
Had it not been for the miracle at the Meadowlands.
Miracle at the Meadowlands and Anthony Richardson getting gassed.
Yeah. The Colts would be in that final playoff spot too. So, like, there is some argument to be had there.
Sure.
But looking at the perspective, I agree with you. They had bad losses.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that stand out is the ones you're losing to Baltimore, who you now have to face in the playoffs next week.
That game wasn't that long ago.
No.
That game was on December 21st.
Yeah, and what was the score of that one?
That was 34-17.
Right. So, literally, Baltimore doubled up on you.
Yeah.
So now you have to come up with a game plan on short notice to somehow right that wrong.
I'm looking at the box score on this. Lamar threw for 207 and 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He only got sacked once. Derrick Henry ran for 162 and had no touchdowns. Zay Flowers put up Randy Moss on Thanksgiving numbers, 5 for 100.
Yep.
Mark Andrews 4 for 37, and let's just for argument's sake look at the quarterback hits. Fucking Christ. Pittsburgh defense quarterback hits, none.
Yeah. So Tomlin really needs to pull a coaching job.
He's got to pull a rabbit out of his hat.
Yeah, literally. He has to pull a job out like we've never seen before.
This would be one thing if, like, for whatever reason, the scheduling people put both of their games at the beginning of the year, and we can sit here and go, okay, probably not going to be the same outcome. 2 totally different teams. You know, the team at the start is not the team at the end, but they literally just played 2 weeks ago.
Right. So they now really have to come up with something.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that next segment. But that's the problem they're going to have.
Yeah.
Immediate problem. Like that.
Yeah.
This is DEFCON 5 for them. On the flip side, Cincinnati, well, they should have been in the playoffs.
Good season, but hey, just not what you wanted.
Good season, bad losses early.
Yeah.
And
Which happens a lot with that division.
Oh, it does. But that's,
Pittsburgh, the one year they tied and missed because of the tie.
well, the one thing about Cincinnati is their defense has been very, very inconsistent.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Joe Burrow has done literally everything he can in his power to score points.
I think if you ask 100 NFL fans, and I'm not even talking the diehards, you know, the folks who watch week to week and might catch a game but don't watch everything, you know, rank the AFC North defenses. You're going to get some variation in the first 3, but in most cases, they're going to say like Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cleveland.
Yep.
And then I think almost everyone outside of maybe, you know, the Ohio State area and the greater Cincinnati area is going to put Cincinnati last.
Well, because they've never addressed it, really.
No.
You think for all the flashy moves they made on offense, and they have made some great ones.
Oh, sure.
They can't build that defense up for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I think for them this offseason, depending on what you do with T. Higgins, I've heard reports, allegedly, I'll put that out there, he's willing to restructure to stay.
Okay.
So if you can keep him there with Jamar Chase, who
It's worked so far.
yeah, I think if you can keep those two together, and obviously your running game is okay, I think you'll be all right.
I think
that side of the ball.
I think if you want to keep Jamar Chase as good as he is, you have to keep T. Higgins. Because I think if you lose T. Higgins, I'm not saying he takes a drastic hit.
Right, but you take a hit.
The numbers will slump.
No, completely. No question about that. So Cincinnati, they have to now come up with a game plan for that for the offseason. Because honestly, that is literally what's holding you back. And if you had closed out some games properly, been a whole different ballgame. But you didn't. When you lose to a Patriots team that is one of the worst they've ever had, opening week, that kind of was your pace setter the entire season. So better luck next season, and then we got playoffs. But before we get there, we have to recap the last week that was. So, Pat, let's kick it off.
Yeah, so we had the Carolina Panthers beat the Atlanta Falcons 44-38 in overtime.
What a game, huh?
Can we talk about the resurgence Bryce Young has had?
Yes.
Holy hell. Can you think of anybody who got benched and then came back that same season who had as good a season as he did?
Not the same season.
Good Lord.
Not the same season. A season after, yes.
I mean, the stats aren't sexy, but still, over 2,400 yards, 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, quarterback rating of 54.5. He got benched.
Yeah. Well, but the problem that he had the entire season, which I'm glad they did bench him.
Oh, I am too.
Because he wasn't ready.
No.
And every time, I know it's the popular opinion for GMs for reasons, because they want to start their number one picks. They think they're immediately ready to go.
Oh, sure.
And if you take a look,
overall history,
how many number one picks have been ready to go day one?
Not a large number. I mean, Andrew Luck is coming to mind.
He's probably the last one.
He's the last one I can think of that, was great. Some of the, now you might sit here and say, well, Jaden Daniels, well, is that, okay, if you're talking to anybody from this year, jury's still out.
Correct.
But long term, Andrew Luck is the last one that comes to mind.
Give me 3 seasons.
Okay.
And we'll say like from when they drafted, started day 1 to 3 seasons.
Okay.
Then. Yeah, Andrew Luck is probably the last one to come to mind.
Yeah.
Everybody else, you take a look at who's been on a team. Have they been an immediate impact starter? I mean, before him, it was probably Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I think after that, I mean, we may be missing one or two, but
Sure.
they're not leaving that much of a mark. Because you think about who was drafted number 1 overall, those were number 1 overall picks.
Mm-hmm.
With Bryce Young, you had the same issue.
Yeah.
So like I say, in this situation, wait, was he number 1?
He was at least top 3.
Okay. I'm blanking because I know there's a lot of moving and shake because that was the moves they did with Chicago for the draft pick.
He was round 1, pick 1.
Thank you. For some reason, I was almost blanking.
Yeah, that was the one they traded DJ Moore to Chicago.
Thank you. Yes,
and that was Chicago's pick.
We'll do it live, folks. That's what we do here. But then going back to the main point, he got benched. He sat behind the GOAT, Andy Dalton.
Oh yeah.
Who, I mean, as a Bills fan,
free Buffalo wings for the rest of his life.
You'll never hear me say anything bad about his play on the field ever. He learned, and that's what makes him get better because you're not thrown in a situation. He had no talent to work with. He actually made them better. The fact they got 5 wins, I'm astonished with this season.
Oh, I know. I mean, you look at the weapons he's got. His leading rusher was Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
His leading receiver for this game was Jalen Coker. Who? Yeah. Miles Sanders was also in there. Okay, Adam Thielen I've heard of.
Well, he's on the downslide in my opinion.
Right. But he's at least a name you've heard of. Jatavian Sanders, Tommy Tremble, Xavier Legette, Felipe Franks. I feel like I'm saying soccer names from the English Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
Like who? David Moore. Okay, him I've heard of. Mike Boone. Like, I'm sorry, I know we just finished up fantasy football here a couple weeks ago. Are any of these names outside of maybe like Thielen late in the draft or David Moore late in the draft? Any of these guys sounding like, oh, you know what? Round 5 next year, I got to draft that guy.
Maybe Legette, but I only know that because I had to pick him up on waivers this week.
Sure.
Or for the final playoff run. Either way, though, this is a situation for Carolina. Bryce Young might be serviceable.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait to see what he can do.
Get him some weapons and see what he can do.
Yeah, they're going to have to make some moves in the draft. As for Atlanta, well, the Michael Penix era is in full effect. Kirk Cousins is on his way out.
Kirk Cousins, give me your agent's number. I need to talk to him.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins will be fine. You know what? In fact, I don't doubt him winding up in New York.
Why is his phone ringing with a Cleveland area code?
Yeah, something will happen there.
Then you had the Washington Commanders beat the Dallas Cowboys 23-19.
Good win for Washington. The Cowboys are just trying to get to the offseason. Ezekiel Elliott, who was released, I hear is now on the Los Angeles Chargers as we're coming to air.
Is he really?
Yeah,
wow,
he got
good for him. Good for him.
He got picked up for the practice squad, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll check into that as we get to the next segment.
Then you had the Chicago Bears, to Seth Rollins' own happiness, defeat the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay, 24-22.
Bad loss for the Packers.
Oh, yeah.
Injuries are not helping them. Jordan.
I want to see the latest on this.
Jordan Love and Christian Watson are out.
While Watson is out, Jordan Love, according to the injury report on ESPN.com, is listed as questionable.
Okay.
Quote, Packers head coach Matt LaFleur said Monday that he thinks Love is, quote, going to be okay, but that it's not yet clear whether he'll be limited in practice heading into Sunday's wildcard round matchup against the Eagles. Rob Demovsky of ESPN.com reports. So he may play, he may not.
Yeah, that's going to be a little dicey, so we'll have to wait to see how that plays out, but very costly loss there.
Yep. Then you had the Houston Texans defeat the Tennessee Titans 23-14.
Well, this game is officially locked up, the number 1 pick for the Titans.
Yep.
And for Houston, I mean, it's a good win for them to get into the playoffs, but at the same time, are they really going to make some moves? We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll see. Mm-hmm. The only notable thing about this was there was technically 2 teams with Houston logos on that field.
Yes, this is true.
Houston Oilers versus the Houston Texans.
The trolling.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
I love it.
Wow.
You had the Indianapolis Colts defeat the Jacksonville Jaguars 26-23 in overtime.
Well, I mean, it was a game, folks.
Joe Flacco, decent game.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, decent game.
Yeah, except when it came for me for my playoffs. We don't need to talk about that.
This is true.
Still hurts.
Philadelphia Eagles beat the New York Football Giants 20-13.
Well, this one, even with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts sitting, the Eagles got the job done.
I was like, most of the fucking Eagles starters were sitting.
Yeah, as they should, which I know some people were questioning about.
Godare, I think, I'm looking, is about the only guy I recognize from starters that got any decent play time.
Well, yeah, it was a smart move by their coach.
Oh, yeah.
Like I say, I'm not going to complain about Sirianni there making that call, because we saw what happened last year with A.J. Brown.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he got hurt going into last season. So that being said, is the smart move to sit Saquon and Hurts. So I'm not mad about it, but they still got the job done. The Giants, I mean, what can you say? It's the Giants. They almost pulled it off, though, too.
They almost pulled it off, and as according to reports from yesterday, keeping their head coach and GM. Not sure I agree with that one.
Oh, we'll talk about that next segment.
Then you had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeat the New Orleans Saints 27-19. Only notable thing about this game is Mike Evans tied the NFL record set by Jerry Rice for consecutive 1,000-yard seasons with 11. He's done it every season he's been in the NFL. Did it on the last play of the game.
Yeah, amazing to see done.
Oh, yeah, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, so definitely a very cool moment to see for Tampa Bay, who, like I say, they can make a lot of noise.
Scrappy.
They can make a lot of noise.
Then you had the LA Chargers defeat the Las Vegas Raiders 34-20.
Good win for the Chargers.
Yeah.
Going into the playoffs, you need momentum. This was a good one for them. The Raiders just were trying to play spoiler. They're going to have a lot of problems to work out this offseason, but I think they have a plan.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
Yep.
Seattle Seahawks beat the LA Rams 30-25.
Bad loss for the Rams, but really, what do they have to play for?
Nothing.
Exactly. I mean, they're already in the driver's seat.
I don't even think they had any seeding to worry about.
No, they were pretty much locked in for where they were. So this one was just get everybody in and get everybody out.
Yep.
So solid win for them.
Then you had the New York Jets defeat the Miami Dolphins 32-20.
Oh man. Oh.
So can I tell a funny story with this? So in our local area on CBS, it was the Chiefs and Denver game.
Yep.
That's the one I started on because I'm sorry, I'm a Patriots fan. I don't give a shit about what happens to the Jets and Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
So I was watching that game. That game got quickly out of control
Oh,
early, but they were showing highlights from the Jets-Dolphins game, and I was like, oh, which made sense. And I was like, oh, that makes sense because I saw in the highlight they had the score of the Chiefs-Broncos game in the corner of the Jets game. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Well, once the Chiefs-Denver game got out of control, I'm like, well, they're not going to switch out of this, so I might as well switch over to the Jets and Dolphins, see how that's going. And I laughed because they had completely taken out the little score graphic out of the top corner because, the Chiefs aren't losing, or the Chiefs aren't winning.
Yeah, no, the Chiefs were definitely not winning that game. Yeah, this one, a little bit of fireworks after the game, so to speak.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, let's just say this. The Jets will be a whole new team when you see them next season.
Rodgers may or may not retire. He said he's not sure. Reports are today that, not so fast. We had good conversations with him.
Well, I think it depends on who's going to be the head coach. If it's Rex Ryan, who finished his interview today, he's good as gone.
Oh, please let it be sexy Rexy.
My fingers are crossed for that one.
Please.
And on the flip side, Tyreek Hill.
Oh, boy.
Gave the most passive-aggressive he wants out of Miami that I've ever heard.
Are you talking the Twitter post where it was Antonio Brown?
The post speech, but then the Antonio Brown solidified anything that they were trying to say. I know the spin job coming out from what I was reading was they had positive conversations, X, Y, and Z. Listen, it doesn't matter. He put it out there. He wants out.
Listen, you went for the bag. Mm-hmm. You got the bag.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You also willingly left a team that since you lost still won Super Bowls.
Has gotten better.
Oh, yeah.
So who's the problem?
Yeah.
We're just saying in this situation for him crying about losing and that you knew what you're going for because you want for the contract.
Uh-huh.
I don't feel bad for you one bit.
Oh, I don't either.
I hope you do get traded somewhere, though, but not to somewhere you want to go.
I'm just looking. He played 16 games last year, 17 this year. Receptions were down. Targets were down, yards were down, average was down, touchdown was down. About the only thing up was he had a longer touchdown reception this year compared to last year. So, hey, it is what it is.
The fact he quit on his team because that's what happened.
Right.
He took himself out of the game, which they said in the post.
Says a lot about his character.
Exactly. So, like I say, I might be a little more harsh about this, but no, even as much as I don't like the Dolphins, still, the fact that you took yourself out of a game for no reason other than you were quote-unquote losing, that's...
If you're going to talk the talk and say, I'm the guy, I'm the number one wide receiver in the NFL, I'm the number one wide receiver on my team, which clearly he fucking is. Like, listen, no disrespect to Jalen Waddle.
No, he's the number one.
He's the number one guy. You got to back it up. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be the leader, if you're going to be the captain, if you're going to be the team, like whatever... You have to back it up. You can't quit on them because that looks horrible.
And plus, to paraphrase a little bit, he was saying that Tua is more accurate than Mahomes at one point.
Yeah, he did say something to the effect of Tua's comparable or comparable to Patrick.
Yeah, when you start making sound bites like that and then you flip a 180, that's not going to come out as a good look. So if the team is trying to move you, I don't know exactly where they're going to, because you have to see about who needs a number one receiver.
Right.
But then again, you have to do what's best for your organization. I don't necessarily know. We'll have an off season to take a look.
Right.
But in his case, it's like I don't think he should be rewarded for taking himself out of game. That's my
No.
biggest problem. Had he gone on there, done everything he could, then maybe I could say you have an argument, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But you also took one of the highest contracts ever to go there. And remember, at that point, too, it was between there or the Jets.
Right.
So either scenario, you were looking to get paid, which I'm not faulting you on, but you reap what you sow. So I don't feel bad one bit.
Nope.
And if you get stuck there, you get stuck there. But I hope you do get moved. But I hope it's somewhere where.
I'll look up his contract details, but unless he's got a full no trade, the Dolphins are in the driver's seat of where he goes.
Oh, I think they are. And I think that they're going to need to send him somewhere. Maybe send him to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Or,
guaranteed. Salary guarantee. Roster bonus. Option bonus. Roster bonus. Nope, he does not have a full no trade clause, so Miami is in control of where he goes because he cannot say no.
No, I would send him out west. I'd send him to the NFC.
Yeah, he's not going AFC.
Yeah.
There's no chance.
No, I think they should just move him divisions. I mean, heck, if you want to send him to Chicago, send him to Chicago.
Yeah.
Do something like that.
Oh, God, you know who'd make a play for him? Jerry.
Oh, Jerry would.
Jerry will make a play.
Which, you know what? Let him. Because honestly, I think this kind of behavior shouldn't be rewarded. That's why I'm.
Oh, it shouldn't be. But Jerry will be like, Jerry's the guy who looks at a player and goes, I can fix him.
Yeah. But he's not Belichick. That was the only time you could do it the Patriot way.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it now. So, and the Cowboys, they have other issues they need to address.
It's just in. University of North Carolina has traded for Tyreek Hill.
Oh my gosh. I every time I think about that, I think Belichick is from old school. Like his post thing, he's gonna say we're going streaking to the quad. So, but that game, yeah, what can say the Jets when the Jets are beating you as bad as they are, that's a very good temp in the room. I was very shocked to hear that McDaniels is coming back as head coach.
Yeah,
which I mean,
it makes sense. They've had, at least a moderate amount of success.
Yeah,
they've at least, I wouldn't say gotten worse. They've kind of stayed the same.
Well, that's the whole point. But in this situation,
it's been a set of shitty circumstances.
Yeah, but for him, it's like they haven't improved. They stay steady, but you're still not relevant in this division.
Yeah,
this should have been the year you quote unquote overtook it. You didn't. I don't really see this team getting better next season. I think they're going to be worse.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see.
Then you had the Arizona Cardinals defeat the San Francisco 49ers 47-24.
Was this even a game?
Well, we can at least say it wasn't because of Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was. I'm pulling up the box score now. No, it was Kyler Murray. 42-4.
Yeah.
Call of Duty's still out, so hey, good for him.
Well, he'll be able to enjoy it this offseason, so he'll be able to rock and roll there.
That's true.
For the 49ers, they're going to have to make a lot of stuff happen this offseason.
Yeah.
But with John Lynch as that GM, I'm not worried about him at all.
Uh-huh. Then we got one more game.
Yep.
Well, we got to talk our two teams because they played each other in what should have been a meaningless game. Ended up not being a meaningless game because the Patriots defeated the Buffalo Bills 23-16. Joe Milton III making his first start of the year, 22 of 29, 241 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Mitchell Trubisky, the Maserati, 15 of 21, 101 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Ray Davis led the way for Buffalo, 15 carries, 64 yards, no touchdowns. Antonio Gibson led the way for New England, 12 carries, 41 yards. Keyshawn Boot led the way for Patriots with 7 catches, 117 yards, 1 touchdown. And Curtis Samuel, led the way for Buffalo with 7 catches, 52 yards, and no touchdowns. And I want to add this little statistician to you. A gentleman by the name of Dakota Randall tweeted out, and this was yesterday. Quote, Joe Milton III earned a 95.8 Pro Football Focus grade for Sunday's performance against the Bills, the highest among all quarterbacks in Week 18.
Yep.
In fact, Milton's grade is the highest single-game PFF grade for a Patriots quarterback since Tom Brady posted a 96.9 against the Dolphins in the 2011 season opener, which, if I'm not mistaken, that's the one where he had like the 99-yard touchdown pass.
Yep.
So Patriots, all they had to do was lose.
Yep.
And they locked up the number 1 seed.
Yep.
Or, sorry, the number 1 draft pick. And then Joe Milton decided to go fucking Tom Brady in Super Bowl 51.
Yes, he did.
Ship that man off to the Canadian Football League. Good Lord.
I hope he winds up with a team like Cleveland, because I think he's got vast potential.
I told a buddy of mine who's a Kansas City fan, because he was pissed Carson Wentz was not playing well. I'm like, listen, I'll trade you Joe Milton for a bag of chips. And he's like, oh, do you want Carson Wentz? I'm like, no, cut his ass. I'll trade you Joe Milton straight up for a bag of chips. Nope. I was that pissed.
I was going to say, this brought a tear to my eye. Not that the Bills lost because they were sitting starters.
They were sitting everybody.
Yeah, they're sitting everybody. So Trubisky came in, got some reps. Mike White came in, got some reps. So, like I say, in this situation, I could have cared less about this game. And honestly, nobody came out with any major injuries. The Bills are going to have to focus on Denver next week. And for the Patriots, their loss took away the number 1 draft pick, which now goes to the Tennessee Titans.
Which is wild.
It's insane to think about. So there'll be some drama there, because with the rumors about who's going to be at number 1.
Yep.
There'll be some off-season shenanigans, we'll say, heading into April. But the 2024 regular season of the NFL is a wrap. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts now heading into the playoffs if your team is going? And if not, what does your team need to do to get back in contention for next season? Let's talk about it, shall we? But first, we're going to get a quick break. We'll be right back.
Do you like comic books?
What about movies and TV shows?
Well, we may be the show for you.
We're Hops Geek News, a weekly podcast that discusses comics, movies, and TV shows while featuring a beer of the week.
Every week, we chat about what we messed up on the week before, and then we dive into what we're reading and watching, as well as some news.
We then wrap it up with a geek-themed topic of the week.
You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts by searching Hops Geek News.
Cheers.
The content you are listening to is part of the Nerd Initiative Podcast Network. For more info about the home of pop culture positivity, check out nerdinitiative.com.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we're keeping it NFL because it is now officially time for the playoffs. We're going to give a quick rundown of the brackets, give you our picks about who's going to be punching their ticket to the Super Bowl. So, Pat, kick us off.
So we're going to start in the NFC because, hey, we're biased. We're both AFC guys.
That's true.
Number 1 seed in the NFC, as we alluded to earlier, the Detroit Lions. So they are off this coming weekend, January 11th through the 13th for Wild Card Weekend. They will play the lowest remaining seed. So your first game you got coming up on January 12th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox. The number 2 seeded Philadelphia Eagles taking on the 7th seeded Green Bay Packers.
Well, this one I think is all Philly.
Oh my God, yeah.
I think with Jordan Love being not at 100%, I think this is where this becomes a very tough challenge for them regardless. But I think Philly, had it not been for Detroit being on an astronomical run this season, I think that they would have punched their ticket more easily to get there.
I think there would have been a shot. I'm not saying a good one, but there would have been at least a better percentage for Green Bay to pick up the win.
Yeah. If
Jordan Love, now, granted, we know everyone at this point in the NFL season is not at 100%, but let's face it, I would say Jordan Love is less than 50% right now. He might even be less than 35. Who knows? But were he at least more healthy and yes, he is starting. Yes, he is fine. It's not a big deal. It is what it is. They could have picked up the win, but you got Jalen Hurts, who's playing well, Saquon Barkley, who's putting up MVP numbers, and that defense is just ruthless. Yeah. It's going to be real hard.
It's going to be very tough, and that's why I say I think, unfortunately, Green Bay, who's had a great season thus far, I just don't think they have enough. I think Philly's defense, which does not get enough credit going around, that's going to be the stumbling block for him. And I think that this is going to be a closer game than people realize, but I think Philadelphia wins this one somewhere in the 27-24 range.
I could see it.
Next up.
Then coming up on the second, on January 12th, 8 o'clock Eastern on NBC and Peacock, you've got the number 3 seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the 6th seeded Washington Commanders.
Well, this one I think is going to be a lot more entertaining than people think. Tampa Bay is only favored by 3.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say an upset here. I'm going to call the Commanders. I think Jalen Daniels is really got this team firing on all cylinders. Baker Mayfield is a great story. And listen, if they wind up winning this, I'm not going to be super shocked. But I just think that Washington is playing with house money.
Okay.
Nobody's expecting them to get past here.
No.
So, or make a deep run. So if they can sneak one out here, I think they will. I think that this is going to be a real good challenge for them.
Okay.
And I'll say, we'll keep it around it'll be a lower scoring game. I'm going to say about 21-14.
Okay. I'm going to say Washington's going to win, and I'm going to say they're going to win by at least 10 points.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's going to be like a blowout, like, oh my God, they won 40-30, but I think they're going to go up early. They're going to get the leg up on Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is going to make a comeback, but they're ultimately just not going to be able to close that gap.
Okay.
Then on January 13th, 8 o'clock Eastern on ABC and ESPN, you've got the number 4 seeded LA Rams taking on the 5 seeded Minnesota Vikings.
Well, this one, like I say, is going to be a fun one. Minnesota, had it not been for Detroit, I think it would have been the bells of the ball this year.
Probably.
But unfortunately, they lost their glass slipper, and they have to come back on very short notice, and especially hearing about how they were, quote-unquote, overrated compared to Detroit, and coming off a very bad loss against the Rams team that really flew under the radar and is tougher than people think they are. And I think what Sean McVay and the team has done out there has been really phenomenal because they've done it with a lot of injuries. They've weathered storms. They're battle tested. This one, I don't doubt the Rams take this one.
Oh, I do too. I think if there's going to be one game this weekend that's a high scoring affair, like
this one will be.
Defense is optional. This is going to be the game. Then you flip over to the AFC side where you've got the number 1 seeded Kansas City Chiefs. They will play the lowest remaining seed, so they're off this weekend. But the first game you got on January 11th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on CBS and Paramount Plus. The 4 seeded Houston Texans taking on the 5 seeded LA Chargers.
Yeah. This one, I expect a shootout.
Oh, yeah.
The point spread's only 3 on this.
Right, it's normal. LA's the home team.
Right, which the Chargers, most inconsistent team in football. But I think what Harbaugh is going to do is let Justin Herbert loose because you know what you're going to get with C.J. Stroud. Joe Mixon at this stage I don't think is going to really be the game changer for this team.
No.
I think what's going to happen is this is going to be just points everywhere. It's not going to be as high scoring as the Rams and Vikings, but it will be up there.
Yeah.
And I think when it's all said and done, I don't doubt the Chargers sneaking one out.
I think that's very possible. Like, don't get me wrong, I like Houston. Houston's very good. They got a lot of injuries, going on there. And Harbaugh's just got this team gelling very well. It's not sexy.
No.
It's not anything that you're looking at going, wow, that is awesome to look at. It's not the greatest show on turf 3.0 or whatever the hell it would be. But they're very consistent, and they're very good right now.
Completely.
Oh, yeah. Then on January 11th, 8 o'clock Eastern on Prime Video, you've got 3-seeded Baltimore Ravens taking on the 6-seeded Pittsburgh Steelers.
This is box office.
Yeah.
Even as bad as Pittsburgh has been the last month, this is still box office. And I think this is where we're going to see that coaching display from Mike Tomlin show up. Baltimore is almost 10-point favorites.
Oh, Jesus.
Which, I'm sorry, that's bulletin board material. For Tomlin. For anybody else, I think coming off such a bad loss a couple weeks ago, that would shake him up. This is not Tomlin. This is not the Steelers. The Steelers will be ready for this one. Will they pull off the upset of upsets? As the Bills fan in me, I would love to see it.
Sure.
So I'm going to say this. I think Baltimore does win this, but I will say you're going to see a better performance out of Pittsburgh, if not Pittsburgh stealing this. Because the one thing is, with coming off such a big win and Derrick Henry running for 162 yards,
right?
Is he going to really do that again?
Right.
Against a Pittsburgh team that Tomlin will have fired up.
Oh, sure.
It's not going to be that infamous "we're going to unleash hell" speech he did a couple years ago.
Right. And we should note this game is in Pittsburgh.
Right. Which, that's kind of wild, though, too. So, that being said, I think the Steelers are going to give them...
Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. That game's in Baltimore. Game's in Baltimore.
Okay, I was going to say...
The way the bracket had it laid out, Pittsburgh is the home team.
Yeah, because they put the lower seeds on the bottom.
Yeah, okay.
So,
my mistake. So, it's in Baltimore.
Okay, but either way, though, Tomlin's not afraid to take him down there. And Russell Wilson has to play better. I think the pressure's on him. if they can keep this close, they're going to win this.
Okay.
I think what Lamar needs to do is come out and they need to drop 14 on him quick. I think they're going to gang up on Derrick Henry.
Okay.
They're going to load up the box. That's what I mean by ganging up on him.
Yeah.
So they're going to really make him beat him with the arm.
Sure.
I think you got Mark Andrews. As long as he's healthy, Lamar has a chance to do this. Zay Flowers not playing or at 100%, that's going to hurt.
There's only one consistent with this game. Both teams are going to have a QB spy the entire time.
Oh, completely. So I think the Steelers will come out, if they, like I said, if they keep this close. If this is, for whatever reason, like a 17-14 heading into the fourth quarter, I think the Steelers are going to take this.
See, I think Baltimore's going to win this, and I don't think it's going to be close. I'm not saying blowout, but I'm going to say at least 2-score win. Just because Pittsburgh, 4-game losing streak, they just lost to Baltimore 2 weeks ago. Baltimore hasn't gotten any worse. Pittsburgh ain't gotten any better. And Baltimore's just going to be dialed up to 11 with that crowd going crazy. And listen, it's not going to be pretty.
It's not going to be, like I say, if that happens, it's not going to be pretty. If they jump out early, I think they take it.
Sure.
But that's the one thing, the division rivals, the history between the teams, this is, there's a reason it's in the primetime spot. Let's put it, even with that point spread.
Yep. And then lastly, certainly not leastly, January 12th, 1 o'clock Eastern on CBS and Paramount Plus, the 2-seeded Buffalo Bills taking on the 7th-seeded Denver Broncos.
Bo Nix, he had a good season.
Yeah. Might get Rookie of the Year.
He might get Rookie of the Year. Between him and Jalen Daniels, I think that's your 1-2.
Sure.
But I'm sorry, I think the Bills will be ready for this one. I think Josh Allen's going to want to make a statement game out of this.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to win. I would not doubt them winning by 10.
Current point spread is Buffalo by 8.5.
All right, so it came down a little bit. Either way, though, I think they're going to show up for this one. Sean Payton has really done some wonders with his team.
Oh, yeah.
But I think this is a lot to ask for Bo Nix in the playoffs, especially Buffalo. That place is going to be absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Josh Allen knows that the window is closing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with this team, they have the most pressure out of anybody this season. Because for all the MVP talk, all the Super Bowl talk, they need to deliver.
Oh, yeah.
Because if it doesn't happen this season, I'm very fearful for what could be coming the next couple seasons. Because that defense is finally healthy.
Right.
They need to show up. They need to show out. I think they do in this first
round.
round.
Oh, absolutely. I think Buffalo's going to win this game. I think Denver is going to be able to move the ball a little bit, but they're ultimately, that Bills defense is just going to be too locked down on them that it's not going to really move that far.
Yeah, completely.
So by our pickings and by this, it would look like in the divisional round, we'd have the Chiefs playing the Chargers, Bills playing the Ravens, Lions playing the Commanders, and then the Eagles playing the Rams.
Well, going by that logic, I still would say the Eagles and Rams I could coin flip.
Absolutely.
Because I think that one, I'll even bury the lead.
Okay.
I think the winner of this game is your NFC representative.
Ooh.
I think as great as Detroit has been this season, and they have been great,
okay,
I think they're going to get past the Commanders, or I think, I just don't see anybody really slowing them down per se in that one spot.
Right.
However, once you start getting into this area, you're going to have some problems happening for the Lions because I think you're either going to have the Rams ready to face you.
Right.
And I would say with a healthy wide receiver core, Stafford's going to be all right.
Mm-hmm.
Because other than St. Brown, Williams, you would think would be a game changer, but I think with Puka and Cooper Kupp ready to go,
right,
they're going to be tough to beat.
Oh yeah,
and I think you're going to have Sean McVay really take this one. They're going to be. This is going to be the highest scoring game of the playoffs. I think if they have to face each other,
probably.
And I like the Rams in that one. But if it's Philly that wins this one, because honestly, I could flip a coin.
Oh yeah, you could.
If you want me to give a pick, I'll say Philly.
Okay.
I think Philly's defense.
Yeah,
is going to take them. I think Saquon Barkley is going to keep the Detroit offense off the field long enough, and I think that's where the problems are really going to be at, because I don't see Detroit. I think has had a great season thus far, but I think they get past whoever they face in that next round.
Saquon's just that X factor that adds a whole different layer.
Yeah, I just think that depending on who gets there. If it's the Rams in Detroit, that could get messy too for that second round, depending on how things shape up, but I'm going to tell you right now, I think it's going to come down to either the Eagles or the Rams.
Okay.
All right, your pick?
Yeah, no, I'm going to say the Eagles will beat the Rams just because, again, Saquon Barkley adds a whole different X factor to that whole matchup. And then, listen, it's a great story for Jaden Daniels, but he's not beating Detroit.
Right.
So it's going to be Detroit and the Eagles. And again, I think it's been a great story for Detroit. It's phenomenal that they would have made it this far. But ultimately, I think, hey, every Cinderella story's got to hit midnight at some point.
I agree. Too many injuries.
Too many injuries, too banged up. Playoff football hits harder than the regular season. Everyone's going for the hardest, leaving it all out on the field. And just it's too many bumps, too many bruises, for Detroit to overcome. And Philly's been there. Philly's experienced. Philly's, got that X factor, that it factor. So I think it's ultimately going to be Philly making it from the NFC side of things. And then what about you on the AFC side? So you've got the Chiefs, Chargers, and then Bills, Ravens.
Okay, so I will say this. I think the Chiefs will get past the Chargers.
Okay.
I think just the Chargers are not there yet. I would love to see them get knocked off. Okay, let me make it very vocal about this.
Sure.
The Bills and Ravens are an interesting matchup because the last time they faced each other, Derrick Henry had a career game against them. He was just all over the place. However, though, with them facing Pittsburgh that first round, win or lose, they're going to be banged up.
Right.
And banged up badly. The Bills know what's coming there. And their run defense is very suspect. However, when they have to show up, they're going to show up. And I think in this scenario, the Bills will get past them, but it's not going to be much. It's going to be something which I hope people around me to take me to the hospital because I think it's going to come down to a Tyler Bass kick.
Oh, shit.
To get past them. It's not going to be a blowout by any stretch of the imagination. Lamar would have to have one of the worst games possible. It would have to really snow badly in Buffalo, which it could happen. But I think though it's going to be closer than people think. But I think just the Steelers are going to take something out of the Ravens. Either they're going to take a win or they're going to take a beating out of them. It's just the physical game of it.
So I'm looking at the overall record between these two teams on statmuse.com. The Buffalo Bills are 4-7 against the Baltimore Ravens all time.
Yep.
Out of these 11 games, everything has been real close, 7 points or less. On only a couple of occasions is that not the case. October 24th, 2004, the Buffalo Bills lost to the Baltimore Ravens 20-6. Then you had the game in September 9th, 2018, where the Buffalo Bills lost 47-3. Then you had the game, as you alluded to, earlier this season in September, where it was the 35-10 loss, where Derrick Henry went bonkers all over the field. Rest of them, though, 13-10. 19-7, 19-14, 37-34, 23-20. It's all been very close. So I think this is going to be ultimately another close game. And listen, I agree with you. It's going to come down to either Tyler Bass or Justin Tucker.
Oh God.
And Tucker ain't as automatic as he used to be.
Yeah. Wow, I never thought I'd say that, but you're right though.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to take the Bills on this one.
Okay.
I
understand it.
It's going to be close, though. Like I say, the Ravens are not going to be 100% coming into this game if it's them. Either way, if it's the Chargers coming out there, it's still good. I still like the Bills in this one.
Sure. I like the Bills matchup in this instance just because, listen, I'm not saying Denver's an easier team to play, but they don't hit as hard as Pittsburgh does.
No, definitely not.
So Baltimore is not going to come in there, and again, I realize nobody's 100% at this point in the season.
Sure.
But Baltimore ain't going to be coming in at 75%. Baltimore ain't gonna, maybe something close to 50%. But Buffalo's not going to be as banged up as Baltimore potentially will be.
Correct. There's no way they're going to be, like I say, the Derrick Henry they faced early in the season is not going to be the Derrick Henry they face now.
Sure.
So you take him out of the equation, and that means you're going to have to get in a shootout between Lamar and Josh Allen, and I will take Josh Allen over that in that circumstance. Because I just think with the injuries they have on the wide receiver core, Baltimore is in a little more trouble than people think. So if you can slow down Derrick Henry just enough, I think they're going to take it. But like I say, it's going to be a really close game, more than people want to admit.
Yep. So then for the AFC Championship game, you'd have the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, God. At Arrowhead, no less.
Uh-huh.
See, I have my conspiracy theory concerning the Super Bowl.
I hate both of these potential matchups.
Yeah.
As a Patriots fan.
I hate this as a Bills fan because all you're going to hear is Mahomes, Allen, the rivalry, X, Y, and Z, 13 seconds. The list goes on and on. My stress level will be bad. I'm going to just say this. There's my conspiracy theory that I've always had that somehow destiny is going to will the Chiefs there.
Okay.
Kendrick Lamar's playing the Super Bowl.
What's
the song that he does with Taylor Swift? Bad Blood. Will she be there? Yes. The Taylor factor is in effect. Yeah, nobody ever thinks about that.
Yeah.
So when that comes into play, does that mean the Chiefs are going to get there? Because I will say this, win, lose, or draw, this is the last Chiefs dynasty run that you see with this team. I think Travis Kelce is done after this season regardless.
Probably.
I truly think he is. But this is where I think something's got to give. And I think for somehow, some way, the stars are going to align. And by God, the Bills are going to do it. I don't know how. It's going to be close. It's going to be like a fluke thing that you're going to have like a Pacheco fumble. You're going to have even like maybe Kelce fumbles. Something weird is going to happen that is going to get the Bills in position to win. Because it's not going to be an easy task beating them in Arrowhead, but they've been known to go down there and face them and deal with them pretty well. The Chiefs team is not the same Chiefs team of old. This team, for their only loss, they got lucky. They're probably the luckiest number 1 seed team. That luck has to run out somewhere, and it will run out against the Bills.
See, listen, now we both got the Eagles on the NFC side.
Yep.
I hate both of these matchups.
This is true.
Chiefs, Bills, don't care, hate them both. But looking at it from a football fan side, the journalist side in me, I think, listen, Kansas City's been good. They've been extremely lucky. There were 5 teams in the NFL this year that have not scored more than 30 points in a game. The New York Giants, we know their record.
Yeah, they're bad.
The Las Vegas Raiders.
They're bad.
The New York Jets. And the New England Patriots.
Yep.
The other team, Kansas City Chiefs.
Really?
The Kansas City Chiefs.
They didn't drop 30 this year?
They never dropped 30 on anybody.
Get out.
So, listen, I think that's going to come back to haunt them because we have seen with this matchup in the past, high-scoring affair. You need to put up at least 30 to do this. I'm looking at the Kansas City side of things. The high looks like they put up 30 exactly against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 9.
Oh, the overtime game.
That was the overtime. They put up 30 against Tampa Bay, and then they put up 30 against Carolina. But that's about it. Buffalo is just dialing it up on all cylinders. Josh Allen's having an MVP season. Like you said, the defense is finally in tune, and got it clicking. That this isn't the same Kansas City team from the last 2 Super Bowls where they looked nigh unbeatable and they were doing video game stuff, to make the other defense look childish. They're beatable. They're human. There's a reason no team in the NFL has ever had a three-peat, and I don't think this is going to be the first year because I think the Buffalo Bills will, much like when Peyton Manning finally beat Tom Brady in the playoffs and exercised that demon, I think that's going to be what this game is for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills.
Well said, sir.
And then I'm going to hate this Super Bowl matchup because I don't like either team. Can they tie, please?
Well, I will say this. With Philly and Buffalo, it's a lot more even match than anybody wants to say.
Oh, sure.
Philly's defense will give Josh Allen problems.
Oh, yeah.
And Saquon Barkley against that Bills run defense scares me completely.
That Bills run defense against anybody else is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Saquon, though? Oh, boy.
But Saquon's having a career year. And I think they now know how to really bring out the best in him. But on the flip side, too, the Bills are playing, as weird as it's going to sound, they're playing like the Patriots of old.
No, they are.
Because they have great players on this team, but there's no egos. And you don't see anybody really getting mad if they don't get the ball. And when you have James Cook running and leading that running back core, and you're seeing Coleman and Shakir and the tight ends clicking, This team is going to show up and show out, and this is literally the last run they have. Because I think with contracts next season, they're going to be in some problems. They have rebuilt, and they've made this a hell of a story, and they just are playing like that team of destiny right now. And I'm not saying this just as a fan. I'm just saying from outside looking in, a lot of the sports media wrote them off for dead this year, and rightfully so, because that franchise that Bean and McDermott built way back when left because of injuries, contracts, you name it, whatever. The Stephon Diggs drama, everybody thought that would be a big factor this season, and it hasn't been because this team really got down to what it counts. They went in there and they played games even when their defense was getting banged up. Matt Milano was gone early in the season. He's coming back. The team is playing healthy enough that I think that this is finally going to be the time they exercise that demon. And I think finally they're going to win this one 27-24.
I fear for my sanity if Buffalo gets there and wins. Good Lord.
Yeah, which...
for those who don't know, we're in Bills country.
Yep.
We're in the heart of Bills country.
I will apologize profusely for the commentary that'll be coming out of my mouth in that post episode.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing, too. Remember the movie Bruce Almighty?
Yep.
Remember the end of that movie, or towards the end of that movie, when somebody prays or whatever for the Sabres to win the Stanley Cup, and they do? What happens to the city of Buffalo in that movie? I'm not saying it'll look exactly like that.
It'll look exactly like it.
It'll be close.
It'll look exactly like it.
It'll be close.
No question about that. That said, hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. We got to get your Super Bowl predictions and playoff predictions as well. And very quickly, before we get out of the NFL talk, we have to go through the coaching carousel. Obviously, some moves have been made. We'll kind of do this rapid-fire style.
Yep.
So, Pad, let's get into it.
So all of these individuals, as of this recording, have been fired, and we're now looking to fill those vacant positions. Ron Carthon was the Tennessee Titans general manager. Gus Bradley was the Indianapolis Colts defensive coordinator. Lou Anarumo was the Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator. Doug Peterson was the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. Gerard Mayo was the New England Patriots head coach. Ken Dorsey was the Cleveland Browns offensive coordinator. Andy Dickerson was the Cleveland Browns offensive line coach. Matt Eberflus was the Chicago Bears head coach. Joe Douglas was the New York Jets general manager. Shane Waldron was the Chicago Bears offensive coordinator. Dennis Allen was the New Orleans Saints head coach. Antonio Pierce was the Las Vegas Raiders head coach. Luke Getsy was the Las Vegas Raiders offensive coordinator. Rick Scangarella was the Las Vegas Raiders quarterbacks coach. James Craig was the Las Vegas Raiders offensive line coach. And, of course, earlier in the season, Robert Salah was the New York Jets head coach.
No real surprises there. I mean, Antonio Pierce, I think we're waiting to see what was going to happen there with the Raiders. That's breaking as we're coming on the air.
That one doesn't surprise me, really.
No, it definitely doesn't. I know that they're looking to make some moves and obviously getting back to the Raider ways. And especially they're going to have to make a lot of moves this offseason too. I mean, there is some speculation that they are willing to make some trades to get up into the draft to go get a franchise quarterback now, which I think is really holding them back from really taking that next step.
Yeah.
As far as Doug Peterson in Jacksonville, that wasn't really shock there as well. I think Jacksonville's been underperforming for quite some time.
Yeah, they really haven't gotten any better. They've only gotten worse.
Yeah, Gerard Mayo.
Not a surprise, in all honesty. I mean, I was willing to give the guy another season, but that was before. I want to say it was the game against the Chargers, where he was asked before the game who was going to be the starting running back for the game, and the report this was asked to him by one of the reporters, and he told the reporter to be Antonio Gibson, and I'm like, okay, whatever, that's fine. Who started the game? Ramondre Stevenson.
Yep.
And there was just multiple instances of he'd say one thing, and then he'd contradict himself, and he'd have to go back on it and explain it or not explain it. Just great player, and I think he'd be a fine defensive coordinator. Because
he's a good DC. Yeah.
But he's not head coaching material.
Yeah, he's a good DC, but I don't think he's a good head coach.
So we'll see who they get. I know they've interviewed a couple guys already, and I know they're going to be looking to interview Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, I was going to say Vrabel's the hot pick for any team right now.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll see what happens.
Yep. Shockingly, Dabble and Sheehan stayed with the Giants. That's.
I don't agree with that one.
I don't agree with that one either. I think Dabble and Sheehan should go, but the Giants want to do the Giants things.
Never mind the fact that Sheehan, the GM, kept Daniel Jones gave him the monster contract, then let him go and traded Saquon. So now you ain't got shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really can't justify that one.
No.
I don't. I know the Mars don't like making big moves like that. But at the same time, you really got to think of the franchise. You really got to think of it. But that said, I mean, I think the other moves were kind of more predictable than not. Defensive coordinators getting fired. Yeah. Not surprised there because I think some teams, especially Cincinnati, Indianapolis, there's a lot of stuff happening there. For the Cleveland offense, not really surprised.
That's not
Dorsey,
a surprise.
Not really surprised at all with that. So the coaching carousel is now going to begin. I know some interviews have been going on. Rex Ryan for the Jets is a big name going around. Mike Vrabel.
Got to figure out what's going to happen with McCarthy in Dallas because his contract is technically up in a week.
Yep, and the Bears have reached out to talk to him, or want to at least. That's what the big reports are going. So we'll have to kind of wait to see how this all plays out. But in the meantime, though, hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. We gave you a lot of NFL this episode. Let us know your thoughts about the playoffs. Let us know about your team and the head coaching positions. You think there's going to be some more changes happening after the playoffs? Where do you think everybody's going? Let's talk about it, shall we? But we're going to get one last break in. We'll be right back.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou.
This is Matt from Sideroom Sounds.
And you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where no one knows my name, to the desert, the oceans, or the plains. 'Cause I wanna...
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. So we got some one-shots, and then we're ending with some pro wrestling talk. So, Pat, let's hit him with it.
Yeah, I got to talk a little bit of baseball because there is an update to the Tampa Bay Rays Tropicana Field situation. We said we keep you updated on this. Hey, we got a little bit of development. And this, according to an article from ESPN.com, it says that the Rays are now supporting a plan to repair Tropicana Field for the 2026 season. Had a schedule.
Yeah, I was going to say that's very ahead of schedule.
From what I understand about, but the article does read in part, quote, after some uncertainty, the Tampa Bay Rays now support a $55.7 million city plan to repair hurricane-shredded Tropicana Field in time for the 2026 season opener, while the team prepares to play this year at the New York Yankees spring training home in nearby Tampa. Matt Silverman, the Rays co-president, said in an email to the St. Petersburg chief administrator that the team wants to, quote, clear up any questions about its support for the reconstruction. The city must pay for the work under its current contract with the Rays. Quote, while we have been open to considering a scenario in which the city bought out its obligation to rebuild the ballpark, the Rays support and expect the city to rebuild Tropicana Field in accordance with the terms of the current use agreement, close quote, Silverman wrote. So sounds like there's a little bit of the development, but I would not be surprised. And now I will say I'm not a lawyer. I didn't go to law school, but I have seen an episode or two of Law and Order.
Yeah.
I'm expecting this to go to a courtroom at some point, and I'm expecting this to get a little ugly. I'm not saying like mudslinging is going to be going on, but this is not the last we've heard of this.
Definitely not.
We'll see what happens. I'm just curious, and this is, the fan in me. The hell is the baseball game, San Diego Studios? What are they going to do for the Rays? Because normally if you don't play MLB The Show, they don't typically use the actual spring training facilities in the game. They're just these random ones generated or whatever, like they've been using for years. Are they actually going to have to go and like use generate the Yankees spring training facility so that's where the Rays play? I don't know how this is going to work. It's going to be weird.
I just hope they do it like maybe backyard baseball.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, just make it or you know what, make it Williamsport.
Oh, I'm all right with that.
Yeah, do something fun like that.
Then we got to talk a little bit of college football because the college football semifinals are taking place this week. The first game we've got going on is January 9th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. You've got the Penn State Nittany Lions taking on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Currently, real close on the point spread here. Notre Dame is favored by 1.5. Going to be real good.
Let's go Penn State.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And then on the other side of things, boy, I'm real torn on this one. This one on January 10th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. You got the Texas Longhorns taking on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Currently, Ohio State is favored by 5.5.
I mean, Texas would be a great story, but I think it's OSU.
Listen, it's probably going to be OSU. Me being a Penn State guy, I don't want to see OSU there because, well, I know how that's going to go.
Yeah.
I would prefer to see Texas.
I'd like to see Texas. I mean, if I have to pick one, yeah,
sure.
But I think it's OSU.
But yeah, we will see what happens. And then ultimately, the college football championship is going to be 7:30 p.m. Eastern on, it says ESPN, but let's face it, it's going to be on every ESPN network and ABC.
Yeah.
On January 20th.
Okay, so keep the calendars marked and let us know in the meantime who you're taking for that.
Mm-hmm.
Last but certainly not least, we got to talk a little bit of pro wrestling.
Good Lord.
This past Monday night, as we were recording, history was made.
Yeah, it was.
World Wrestling Entertainment made its transition from cable television to Netflix, the streaming service that is offering a very broader audience and getting a lot more eyes on the product. So the TKO era, led by Nick Khan and Triple H, has really taken a hold of the new way we consume video.
Yeah.
To put it mildly, and they debuted Raw is Netflix this past week from Los Angeles, California, as we alluded to. So we are going to quickly recap the show that was. So, Pat, why don't we talk about it?
Yeah, so of course the show opened up with Triple H doing a little bit of, hey, welcome to the Netflix era, which maybe that's what we're going to be calling this era. I don't know. Hell of a video package, too, that they put together. That was incredible. The Rock then came out and did The Rock things. Now, I think the thing with this is, as anyone who has watched professional wrestling for a little while understands, and if you also follow The Rock's movie career, busy dude.
Yeah.
There's a reason he went, what was it, like 11 years or something between, and I'm not counting the first WrestleMania in Dallas where he wrestled Eric Rowan in like 90 seconds or whatever the hell it was. I'm not counting that one. But there's a reason he went 10 plus years between actual wrestling matches, because he's got a wicked schedule. He's always busy. But it does appear that he's going to be unavailable for WrestleMania this year because despite what happened at Bad Blood with him showing up at the end of the show and doing the whole thumb across the throat motion of Cody Rhodes, seemed to bury the hatchet and gave him praise and said he's been doing a good job.
Well, we have to remember something, too.
Okay.
With Netflix, this is a broader audience that we have alluded to.
Yeah.
You have to win over pop culture, much like we talk about with the comic shows.
Sure.
You have to win over the pop culture audience. If you have The Rock cutting a heel promo,
sure,
how are the moviegoers that are tuning in to see this reacting?
I'll say it became a little obvious to me he wasn't going to be going full heel when they showed his daughters were in the front row.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, he's not going full. He as he calls them, his little hurricanes. He's not going to be going full heel with his kids in the front row.
No, absolutely not. So the thing here is it made sense on that aspect. Which,
yeah.
And there was another one that came up too. We know this is John Cena's last year as a full-time competitor in WWE, probably ever.
Yeah.
They want to give him the spotlight this year. The Rock doesn't want to overtake it. Which, listen, I approve of that.
Oh, I do too.
So if he's going to do this to win over the audience and really put the tone, I'm okay with this. I think for storyline reasons, they're going to have to change some things, but I'm not mad about it.
Yep. Then the first match on the Netflix era of WWE was the Tribal Combat match with Roman Reigns taking on Solo Sikoa. Winner was the official only Tribal Chief, and winning in 21 minutes and 30 seconds with obviously a lot of shenanigans involved by the end of it. Roman Reigns defeated Solo Sikoa to become the only Tribal Chief.
Love this match.
Great match.
Love the insanity that was going on at the end of this. I'm really curious where we're going with the Bloodline now.
Yeah, I am too.
So that's the only thing I don't understand.
Give me a Gorillas of Destiny run.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Full blown.
Give me a God. Give me Jacob Fatu just doing Jacob Fatu things.
That's
all I ask for. I don't ask for much. When Bronson Reed comes back, just pair them together and just put a camera on them.
Yeah.
Just make the magic happen. But for Roman winning this now is the question of where does he go?
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting one.
Yeah, so
I think he'll go away. Don't really need him because you're going into Royal Rumble season. He's not really up for a match. I don't see him competing in the Royal Rumble.
Never say never.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one thing we don't know what they're going to be planning.
I'll say this. If he does do the Rumble, he's coming out 30.
Yeah.
There's no way you're putting him 1 through 29.
Yeah, he's not doing one.
No. After that, you had a little bit of a segment with the one, the only John Cena.
Yep.
Basically saying, hey, it's his last year. It also confirmed he is entering and plans to win the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I miss Santino. How you brought back the reference for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, he's Cena's entering the Royal Rumble, which, I mean, that's no real surprise.
No.
This is going to be the year of Cena, which he's obviously deserves, and wherever we go from here, I'm all in for. So if he's going to be at the Rumble, listen, I don't doubt him as being like 27. I don't think he's going to be 30 because I don't think they want to telegraph it too much.
I just want one moment. I want them to recreate when whatever year it was, when you had the Nexus in the ring, you had like the 5 members of Nexus when Punk was running them.
Yeah.
And Cena's music hit. I want them to do that with the Solo Sikoa Bloodline members. Have Solo, Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, if he's able to go. I know he's hurt. If he's able to go, if not, fine, I get it. And then Jacob Fatu all in the ring, and then have Cena's music hit.
Yeah.
Just recreate that moment. That'd be great.
I'm okay with that.
Then you had a women's world title match with Rhea Ripley taking on Liv Morgan. You had Rhea Ripley defeat Liv Morgan in 11 minutes and 40 seconds to become your new women's world champion.
Sad to see the title reign end for Liv, but
it had to happen.
It was to be expected. Well, now I just want them to be separated.
Agreed.
Go on different shows. The only thing which I started thinking about this after the win.
Okay.
If they're finally ending this feud, thank God. It now comes into question of who is next for Rhea.
Okay.
2 names are coming to mind.
Okay.
1, Charlotte Flair.
Yeah.
2, Becky Lynch.
I
don't doubt them running back Mania from last year.
I could see it. I think it's going to ultimately be Becky, just because they tend to like to keep the couples together.
Mm-hmm.
Andrade, if I'm not mistaken, is on Fridays.
Yes.
And Andrade, for those of you who don't know, married to Charlotte Flair. Becky, married to Seth Rollins. So I'm willing to bet it'll probably be Becky, and Charlotte will end up back on SmackDown. When? I don't know, but soon.
I'm just thinking because last year, I remember Becky was sick and she still did the match.
Right.
That I don't doubt them. I don't doubt them running it back because I'm just trying to think, depending on who wins the Royal Rumble, and I would not doubt Becky is entering and winning.
Oh, absolutely.
So we could see that happening.
Absolutely. Then you had a singles match between Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre, with Jey Uso defeating Drew McIntyre in 10 minutes and 20 seconds.
Let's talk about that entrance, though.
Oh, my God. You mean the Sage?
The Sage.
Travis
Travis Scott bringing Sage.
If that's Sage, I'm the King of England.
Yep. I love how they're trying to spin that because Travis was getting lifted as he was coming to the arena. Allegedly.
I was speaking with a good friend of ours today, Todd, and we were both laughing about that. And he's like, "Yeah, there were probably a lot of awkward conversations on the way home with parents with kids."
If you have not caught the post-show press conference, it is very, very enlightening. We'll leave it at that. But great camera work from all night from the production crew, especially if you see the drone shot with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee on the tables.
Michael Cole, who got a warning from his Apple Watch that they were afraid he had taken a fall.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, if the newer Apple Watches will detect a fall, and if you have fallen, you can hit a button on there and it will call emergency services. He was yeeting so hard on the table, his Apple Watch thought he had fallen.
That's amazing.
Oh, it was great.
And the match itself, though, was very good, too.
I blinked and Jay picked up the win.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of folding laundry, and I was setting down a shirt I had just fallen, and I heard the bell ringing. I'm like, wait, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. So it was very cool to see Jay get the win, albeit though short, but I think they're setting up for something. So that's where I think we're all leading with Drew right now.
Yeah. We were supposed to get a thing with the New Day. That got pushed back to next week. We also know that going into next week, this was a backstage segment during the night. Chad Gable went to Adam Pearce and said he's not afraid of wrestling luchadors. He's willing to take on anyone he can. And Adam Pearce went, oh, anybody. I have just the guy in mind. I'll be right back. I got to go make a phone call. And you and I, Nick from Wrestling Night Live, and Rich all had the same exact idea. Mm-hmm. We're like, well, we know who he's facing because they've been advertising him for, 3 weeks now?
Yep.
Seattle Mato.
Yep.
He's going to have to face Pentagon.
Yep.
Good luck, kid.
Which I think it was Pat McAfee, and I apologize if I'm wrong, was saying next week's show is in San Jose.
Yes.
For Monday Night Raw.
Yes, it is.
San Jose is very close to San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Over under George Kittle, who is a massive Penta fan, is going to either be in attendance or walk down to the ring with him.
Oh, he'll be there.
Yeah.
He'll be there.
Just saying, I don't doubt that happening, and that place will come unglued. Next week's Monday Night Raw is going to be stacked as well.
God, yeah.
So,
oh, my God, yeah.
But great segment there for backstage. And you know what? I don't mind that this was pushed off the show.
No, I don't either. There was so much going on. There were times... It was rapid fire.
Same thing with the Women's Intercontinental Finals.
Yes.
Very happy they pushed that back.
Give it that its own time to breathe.
For Lyra and Dakota Kai.
Yep. No, I'm all right with that. And then you had your main event, which was CM Punk taking on Seth Rollins. And in 18 minutes and 58 seconds, CM Punk defeated Seth Rollins.
Amazing match.
Phenomenal match.
Building for some stuff happening. CM Punk in the Royal Rumble. That's going to be a monster.
Gave a shout out to Chris Bay.
Yes. I love that.
I did too.
Love that. Everything Punk did for this was great, and like I say, the post-match interview he did, one of his best.
Absolutely.
Very much emotional, and love him or hate him, he was honest about what he was saying there. So I am not mad about that at all. I will highly recommend, if you haven't seen it, once again, go check out the post-show press conference that was ran.
Yeah.
Arguably the best one they've ever done.
Oh, yeah.
Arguably, on many, many levels. So, Pat, guess overall thoughts on Raw is Netflix.
Very good episode. I know some people were worried after the Jake Paul or whatever Paul brother was.
Logan Paul,
Mike Tyson fight that there'd be streaming issues. I personally had no issues. The stream was phenomenal. The only time I had issues, I was doing laundry, watching on my phone, and I was far enough away in my apartment building that I wasn't connecting to my Wi-Fi, and it was trying to, so it was buffering, but once I turned off Wi-Fi, perfectly fine. So that was the only quote-unquote issue I had, but it wasn't even really an issue on Netflix's end. It was my personal end. The stream was amazing. The presentation was great, and overall, I just loved everything about it.
Yeah, they made a monster first impression, and especially crossing over into pop culture. They had a lot more eyes on them last night. The only thing that they did wrong was the Hulk Hogan promo.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Listen, not going to
read the room on that one, folks.
Not going to lie about that. That was not well received any way, shape, or form. I'm curious where we go from here with that.
I'm willing to bet this is the last time we see him on TV for quite some time.
That would be smart to do, but we'll have to wait to see, because obviously with the business deal going on with him and his beverage and WWE, we'll have to really wait to see how they pivot out of this one. But for what they wanted to do, they made this into a spectacle. Pop culture was there. Celebrities were there. This was a
lot of celebrities.
Yeah, this was a talk of social media.
Good Lord.
And this, rightfully so. Like, they delivered a home run. They gave a whole new audience a new perspective on pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And listen, if you love your stuff more AEW style with the in-ring action, that's completely fine. But for what WWE wanted to do, and they're very story-driven, they nailed their key points they needed to. Next week should be even a larger show with San Jose.
Yeah.
I know they're already stacking the decks there, and now we're on the road to the Royal Rumble, so a lot of fun things to watch moving forward. For more pro wrestling talk, make sure every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wrestling Night Live on Nerd Initiative YouTube. And we'll have to really get the recap of everything going on this week, because NXT, The Rock is making an appearance.
Yeah.
AEW is coming off the New Japan Wrestle Dynasty show, so a lot of storylines going to be happening there. What a time to be a wrestling fan.
Allegedly, we're suspended from the show for comments we made.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
So we'll have to wait and see. ... That being said, for anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. That's it for sports this week. So for the one only Padawan J.
Fuck the Astros.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.
It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. 'Cause anyone who's worth a damn be worth way more than a picture could ever show. You could find the right light, find the right angle, and never find your soul. And it can feel like a losing battle, and this plot is full of holes. This modern way of finding love just makes me feel so alone. And I can't be the only one sick of staring at my phone. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Don't know that I believe in the old time fable. Everyone has just one true love. All I know is you're across this table, and you're all I'm thinking of. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. right on people you could know.